Hello, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com, the sharing economy proofreading platform that I am trying to build. And in this video, what I'm going to be talking about is how to create amazing results section in a scientific article. So I'm going to get into what exactly is a results section, and then how you should be writing it up depending on the type of study that you're doing, whether a quantitative or qualitative study. It does make a difference. And this is all part of my Words and Science series that I put out. This is where I can be, I call it my Nerd Out Wednesday, where I can be a giant nerd and talk about things that I think are interesting in science and things that I think where I can be just a total nerd, because I am a total nerd and I can get into all these nitty-gritty things and nobody else is talking about, I believe. So what exactly is a results section? What do you do with that? Well, this is a section that is probably about 3/4 of the way through a scientific article where you talk about the different results of your findings in your analysis, right? So before that, you have kind of like the meat and potatoes where you talk about all of this sort of theory, and then you get into the different kinds of analysis that you used. And then the results section is where you can tell the reader, okay, this is what we found based on what we were looking at before. And this is where you get into all the different results. In a lot of ways, it's probably one of the more easier parts to write up, believe it or not, because the theory takes so much thought and processing and stuff like that. But then the analysis, this is where you think about, okay, this is where, this is where I'm going to detail all the kind of little nitty-gritties. And then what you do, in there's kind of two different ways that you can write up a result section. And one of them is a lot more easier than the other. Let's just say that. So if you're doing a qualitative hypothesis testing type paper, this is a real standard science paper where you present hypothesis and then you try to falsify those hypotheses. You try to create you create some sort of test to rule out that hypothesis actually does exist. What you're trying to do in those moments in a results section in that type of paper, what you do is you go through and you present the hypothesis. Generally, you kind of reword the hypothesis and you'll go through all the different hypotheses. Generally each paragraph is its own hypothesis. And at the beginning of the paragraph, you'll write, well, this is the results for. This is what I was expecting, or what we were expecting, and then here are the results. And whether it was falsified, that hypothesis was falsified, or you provide some sort of supporting evidence. And notice the language that I am using. This is because you can never ever get proof for a hypothesis. You're trying to rule out that hypothesis as much as possible and that it actually does exist. And what ends up happening is if you do have evidence that sort of confirms that hypothesis, that's what you're trying to suggest, is that it is just weak evidence. We don't know if something actually exists out there, and you just have some sort of weak evidence, and you didn't rule out that hypothesis. You didn't rule it out, and we can continue on with the scientific process. The other way that you can write up a results section, this is where it's a lot more difficult. This is where you are doing a qualitative type study, where you are going and maybe interviewing different people. Maybe you're doing what's called participant observation. You're watching different people sort of interact in the real world. Maybe you are doing any sort of series of qualitative stuff where maybe you're just kind of going on your day-to-day sort of life and observing what you're seeing, and that is one particular type of study. What you're trying to do is sort of detail sort of your insights on different things. And that's the goal of qualitative, is you're looking for insights that nobody else has seen before. It's the goal of both of those, actually, for hypothesis testing. But there's much more emphasis on the sort of insight generation in the qualitative testing type paper and a qualitative paper. And the results section is going to be the vast majority of your paper in the qualitative type paper. This is where you detail kind of a little nitty gritty at the beginning, the hypothesis or the theories. You don't have hypothesis, and then you get into this is what we found. And then often, sometimes we'll actually have propositions at the end where we dream up, okay, if we had quantitative data, this is what we would sort of look for with a proposition, what we would actually try to find and explore. And so the goal with the results section is not to provide any particular discussion of the results. It is to simply present what you saw. And that is it. That's why it's probably sometimes the easiest. Qualitative section, again, it is really difficult to do that part. But you're just trying to demonstrate or talk about what you just observed, and that's it. Sometimes what you'll do is after the results section, it's kind of part of the results section before the discussions and limitations and theoretical implications and stuff like that. You want to put in the post-hoc analysis, because what you're trying to do is show that the results that you observed are robust. What you will do is try to sort of falsify and come up with different ways to make sure you rule out all the other possible explanations with the post-hoc analysis. And this is a really nice way to demonstrate that your results are robust. So you come up with maybe different statistical tests, maybe different statistical ways of looking at it. Maybe you come up with you do some interviews at the end of it after you did sort of hypothesis testing and the interviews were confirming of your results. Maybe you go in and you do different metrics. So you come up with different ways to measure different things and the results are confirming, and so on and so forth. And you kind of just keep going down deeper and deeper until you rule out all possible explanations that anybody can have. And generally when you're going through the review process, that is where it is going to be generated, those different post-hoc analysis, because what you could do is if a reviewer suggests, well, you should look at this, just put it into the post-hoc analysis where you have done a robustness check, where you actually look to see what if that result actually did, whether you observed it or not, or that particular test, whether you actually had those results or not, based on what the reviewer suggested you to look at. So that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you like what I'm doing. If you like this video, do the old thumbs up. If you don't like it, that's fine as well. Totally happy with either one of those responses. You can also ask comments and stuff, like provide comments and stuff like that. So go through and watch the older videos if you want to help out with the reciprocity project. What I'm trying to do is create a sharing economy proofreading platform. You can go on to reciprocity.com. The E is about the 3. And for those of you who are already subscribed and all that kind of stuff, you're so cool. You're amazing. Love every one of you. And yeah, so that's it. Have a good day and take care. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video.